Guys, you don't need to choose between price and quality to get an amazing and affordable shave. DollarShaveClub.com is the answer. To prove how amazing their shave really is, right now they're going to give you your first month free to join the club. DollarShaveClub.com delivers amazing razors right to Tim Gettys' door. That's right. GameOverGreggy's own Tim Gettys. For a third of the price of what them greedy razor corporations charge. Join the club like Tim did and stop dealing with drugstore hassles and the battle of the locked up razor fortress ever again. Because that's annoying, you know, Kev. When you go there and you got like a page of the guy and he comes over and he acts like he's doing you a favor. It's like, just let me do this. See why over 3 million members like Tim love Dollar Shave Club. They're so confident in all the quality of all of their products. Now you can get your first month of the club for free. Just pay for shipping. After that, it's a few bucks a month. No long-term commitment, no hidden fees. Go to dollarshaveclub.com/Greggy. That's dollarshaveclub.com/Greggy. And you can have a smooth neck, just like Tim Gettys. Tim,
Yeah.
what's your topic?
My topic, I mentioned it earlier. It's Kazaa and Napster and Limewire.
Ooh.
And all of these peer-to-peer networks that we used to use. I was thinking about this because I came across a screenshot for Limewire, and it instantly just gave me all these flashbacks of downloading all types of stuff. And that was, you know, I started with Napster, moved on to Kazaa, eventually Limewire, eventually FrostWire, then eventually torrents.
Give me timelines. Give me a timeline here.
Timeline?
Yeah.
Napster 2002.
Okay. Was that still kicking by then? Because I thought Napster got neutered by then.
Yeah, Napster invented at Northeastern University.
Yeah, here we go.
Yeah, I started using it in '99. By 2002, it was probably dying.
Because what happened is, for me, when I went to college and had my first Ethernet port and had a laptop, jumped on, and yeah, Napster had been handicapped by then, I thought. And this would be 2001, fall of 2001.
They were all over
and
Napster,
so I jumped to LimeWire and then ran LimeWire through all freshman year.
I'm pretty sure Napster didn't go dead.
It didn't go dead. No, it wasn't dead. It wasn't as good as when we were in high school and I had 56K. It was like,
dude, it was like the Wild West in 1999. It was insane.
I mean, I think that lasted a little bit longer than.
I feel like in 2001 it was still doing that.
I think even 2002. Like I think it wasn't until like 04.
I'm not arguing your facts. I was just like, for me, LimeWire is all there was. That's the one peer-to-peer thing I did, and it was college freshman year.
Really? Yeah, because for me, I started Napster when I was in middle school. So yeah, maybe it was a little earlier than 2002. So I started in like 6th grade-ish. So that would have been 2001, I guess. So then that whole period I used Napster, and then yeah, it died. And then we moved on to Kazaa, was like the intermediary, and that didn't last too long. But that was when movies got introduced, or not so much movies, but videos got introduced. And then LimeWire was just the natural extension, FrostWire after that, and whatever. Then torrents were like, all right, we've perfected this art. But man, I mean, that stuff totally defined so much of my life and my tastes to this day. But just looking at the LimeWire image, there was just so many things. I'm like, oh my God, I remember downloading this thing or whatever, and just so much little shit. Specifically using LimeWire to download LimeWire Pro, and like feeling like I just fucking broke the system. And it was like I was the coolest dude downloading my what was it? WinMX?
Yeah, WinMX was the one I used. That's why I was like racking my brain. I was like, what was the last one I used? And it was WinMX, which was like was actually really good.
Yeah, and SoulSeek is another one. SoulSeek was a bit more of the obscure shit, but you can find that real high quality, like good shit if you're looking. And everyone, what was the media player that
Winamp?
Winamp with the fucking llama demo thing.
It's just really whips the llama's ass.
Yeah, it's like what the fuck? Why? That's so random. But like that stuff is just so tied to a time for me, and it's just you just learned how to use it, and we all taught ourselves what works and what doesn't. If you see LinkinPark.exe, you're doing it wrong. You're gonna have a bad time. But if you find some MP3s, you're great. You know? And
that's the thing I think about all the time is the fact that it never went wrong for me. That I was so stupid and I never downloaded something that totally infected my computer and crashed my computer and Trojan horsed me or anything like that. Because I didn't know what I was doing. Yeah, I got there, Ethernet, great. I remember like worrying about if what was it? The difference between, I guess, the cable I had, if this was an Ethernet cable or whatever, if it would plug in an Ethernet jack and all this dumb stuff. I was so to that, like, because it was mystifying to have amazing internet. That just wasn't a thing yet. And then to get there and go, and I remember, like, for me, like, LimeWire, I think of Chatterbox. GTA 3 came out. I was the only person with the PS2. we would sit there, people would come in and out, I'd be playing, and they'd get mad at me when I got out of the car because they just want to listen to Chatterbox. So me and a friend, I would leave my computer on 24 hours, 7 days a week, searching on Limewire for Chatterbox.
Awesome.
And one morning I woke up and had an hour-long track that it finally got uploaded. We got it, and we were so blown away to have it. And then like downloading songs and putting them on, you know, burning them to CDs, and then walking on my way to class and listening and find out it was the clean version. Or there was one
DJ drops all over it.
Yeah.
No.
DJ Spring.
Yeah.
What's the all the things she said, all the things she
Tattoo?
said. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I got that, and I will whenever
The
I
video?
Whenever,
Oh my God.
Whenever I think
Oh
about
my
that
God.
song,
I love that we both downloaded the same thing.
whenever
love
I
this.
think about that song, there's a part where like the door closes from
The
a
aim
buddy
noise?
list. Yeah, somebody totally bootlegged off their
That's
aim.
fucking awesome.
Yeah. And like you and I had the exact
Yeah.
same. So like when I never hear that song, but when I do hear that song, I'm always waiting for like
the noises.
And then they
Everyone
open
had
it.
that MP3 that, well, not necessarily tattoo, but yeah, with all the weird ambient noise from your computer.
Yeah.
God,
Yeah,
that's
it was
funny as hell.
it was the Wild West. I mean, Napster. Napster was an interesting thing. What was that guy's name? Sean Manning, I think was his name. The guy, Sean Fanning or something.
No, it was Sean. Fuck. He was in Social Network. Justin Timberlake.
All I can think is
I don't think it's
Sean
Manning.
Coombs.
I'll look into that. I'll look into
Parker.
it.
Sean Parker.
Yes, you're right. Sean Parker. Yeah.
Is that what it is? I don't think you guys are right.
I'll look into it.
Yeah, look into
Yeah,
that.
it is. I'm pretty sure.
You could be, but when that was invented and you or whatever, like that was
Sean Fanning.
Yeah.
And there is a Sean Parker.
Sean Parker.
There's Sean Fanning, Sean Parker, John Fanning. Sean Parker looks to be the one who's getting the credit.
So when that came about, it was really remarkable. I had at the time like a 36.6 modem or something like that, and I would download songs or whatever. I remember I think like the Offspring's like. Come Out and Play or something was like the first song I ever downloaded.
That's a good one.
Because I was downloading, you would like people. I'm sure people remember this. You can go to websites and download MP3s, like right click and like save as like MP3s, and that's like 96, 97. Like that's how you would kind of do it. And then Napster came around and we did it. I remember when my friend Cody got high speed internet in 2000. He was like, "Dude, you have got to see Napster on this. Like, it's ridiculous." I had my own phone line in my room, and I would download. And I only had like 1.5 gigs on my computer of space, so I couldn't download like everything. And I still bought a lot of CDs, so I would just download like oddities, like or things like where I was like, oh, I heard this song and I want to just listen to it or whatever. But I remember running to his house, and running down running down the street, and he's like, dude, you can download anything you want in like 3 seconds. And I remember going. I already had it, but I remember looking for 311 sound system, which had just come out, and all the tracks are there, and I remember just downloading them all, and it would be like, and the bar would just fill for each of them or whatever. Like, this is unbelievable. I can't believe that with cable internet can do this. And then we'd burn them to data CDs or whatever, and then distribute them or whatever. But then I moved on to. I didn't really use SoulSeek or Limewire. I moved on to WinMX, and I really stopped using this stuff in like 2002. I think a lot of colleges, you guys probably had the same thing. There was a thing called DC Plus. That was a peer-to-peer network that was usable. I don't really know much about it, but most usable over T1 lines. So when I was at Northeastern or whatever, it would basically connect everyone's computers and people would share their shit that way. It couldn't be used outside of that network, but the speeds were ridiculous. So that's when people were downloading like Seinfeld episodes and movies and all sorts of stuff. And I was like, I wasn't really into any of that kind of stuff, like doing that kind of stuff. So I would just download some music here and there in like 2003 or so. But then like my buddies had CDs and I would just rip their CDs or whatever and do all that kind of stuff. And then by like 2004 or so, I was just I kind of was out, just like, I don't need to do this anymore. And like that. And then not too long after that, like YouTube was like, you could just go listen to anything you wanted on YouTube as long as you had like, you're on your computer or something like that. And I had my iPod and I'd buy music or whatever.
Yeah,
I kind of felt like a little sketchy about it. Like
Right.
When I understood in 10th grade when I was using Napster, I'm like, I'm broke. I don't really know what the fuck I'm even doing. This has no like ramifications. It was actually when Napster was taken down and like attacked, where I'm like, yeah, I kind of understand where these people are coming from. Like this is kind of fucked up. And with WinMX or whatever, and the same thing. Like by the time I had like income, I was like, I'm not going to do this anymore. Like this is. Not that I was buying music left and right. I wasn't. I was buying CDs still, like a few a year, and then just ripping them on my computer and then listening to YouTube.
Yeah.
And then 2007, 2008, then I was using Pandora, and now I'm on Spotify. So I'm more comfortable paying for this kind of stuff. And it seems like torrents have taken that over. I don't have any experience with that world at all. like going to the Pirate Bay or whatever the fuck people go do.
Yeah, I don't know how to do that.
I don't know how to even do it. So it's like I've been out of that game like for 13 years now.
But like at that time, you couldn't divorce yourself from it, whereas you kind of can now. Like back then, your local record store had like a poster up saying like, "Don't download songs, come in here and do it." Like even as part of like Kazaa and Limewire, there was like all those anti-Metallica SWF
Metallica was really
files
against
and
it,
stuff, right? Like saying like "fuck you, Lars Ulrich" and like all this sort of
yeah,
stuff.
but like
about-
he was like that was the thing was like Lars Ulrich was right though. Like
Yeah, he was
maybe,
totally, yeah,
maybe
yeah,
not
like
maybe not the way he was saying it, but I was just like I kind of understand the message. Like these guys make their music and they want to sell it. The ironic thing is that a lot of these bands don't really make money on
sales
music. They
anyway,
make it
yeah.
on touring, which is why I think that Spotify and merch, which is why I think Spotify is nice, and I would pay way more for Spotify if they'd allow it. I would pay $50 a month for Spotify. I think it's totally worth
and
it.
at the time, I thought that he was being like super contrarian to being like, "Oh, you made your money already." And actually, like when I look back at it now, I'm like, "Oh, actually, yeah, you had made your money, and you were probably doing this for everyone else who was coming down the road, like
Yeah.
all the other bands that weren't maybe gonna get that little
Like
scoop
Taylor
at the
Swift
top.
with Spotify, right? Like where she
Right.
makes
Yeah,
the stand,
yeah.
and then Apple Music the same way. Like she
Yeah.
doesn't need the money, but she can make the stand
It's
for
like the
other artists,
only
right?
album I own on Apple that I bought.
Yeah.
is her album because I was like, yeah, I'm not gonna get it that
Exactly.
way.
Yeah. When that's
Sure.
the crazy thing too of thinking about. I remember, and I haven't thought this through in a while, but I think I remember when I was in freshman year using LimeWire, downloading that stuff, and that being the time that iTunes got announced, and they started talking about that's what they're going to do, and they're going to charge for music, this, that, and the other, and being like, and my thought was, no way. Like I'm gonna buy if I'm paying for music, I'm gonna get the CD, and that's what happened. Is freshman year ended and I moved out into housing, and for some reason I didn't care I guess that much about LimeWiring anymore, and I'd go out and buy CDs and borrow other people's CDs and
Yeah.
burn what I wanted off.
Well,
of
there's a big educational shift there. I think that everybody that grew up using Napster and all these other things, when it got to that jump off point where those things were all but dead, because if there's not people uploading things, there's nothing to download. So once it made that shift to torrents, which was probably around 2005,
4 or 5,
I
yeah.
would say is when it like really started.
Because Half-Life 2 came out in 4, and that was huge.
Yeah,
that was like the torrent.
Exactly. And there's a whole bunch of LimeWire and Frostwire and SoulSeek and all this stuff. They still existed. Like they still to this day exist, or at least SoulSeek does. But the torrent thing was, if you knew how to torrent when I was in high school and this happened, you were like the fucking god.
Nice.
Like you had everything. And there was this one dude, Simon, that knew how to do it. And it was so shady, but he would download people's CDs, burn the CDs like before they were out. Like I remember he had Collision Course, the Linkin Park Jay-Z crossover,
Yeah.
before anyone. And he sold
Oh, he sold
just
copies
blank
of it?
CDs, and it's just like, all right, that's shady and whatever. But it's like that was a little high school hustle, right? So like whatever. But once I learned how to torrent, started teaching my friends and stuff, then it all of a sudden became like a word of mouth thing where everyone else was like, oh, cool,
Yeah.
like this is how you do it. Then it's like it separates you from everybody else,
Right.
And you knew how to do this stuff.
And all it was like port forwarding. That's all you had to do. Was just like open up a couple of
Which,
ports.
but back then, that's
I know.
like, what the fuck? Like, I remember first trying to get an emulator running, and it's just like, I downloaded the Super Mario RPG ROM, and I'm like, I haven't played this game in years. I owned it, but I couldn't find the card, and I'm like, whatever. Download it, and I'm double clicking on it, and nothing's happening. I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah,
This PC computer bullshit. Like, what the hell?
drivers, head update your drivers probably.
But then eventually I realized, I need an emulator. I need
Yeah,
to
yeah,
open
yeah.
the emulator, then open the ROM, and blah, blah, blah. And it's just like, I buy CDs to this day. Always have. I'm a big fan of supporting artists and stuff. And I think that as
What,
seen
you buy
by
CDs? Or
He still
buy
buys
CDs,
physical
dude.
media.
You
I
really?
buy CDs.
You're the
I buy
guy?
CDs, rip CDs. Like I am all about that shit. But it's like I am a firm believer in it. Us using Patreon, I think, is practicing what I preach on this. Where it's like I believe that content like this should be put out for free. Some things can be premium, whatever. But it's like overall, I think that it benefits everybody to get the art. Music. Let's just talk about the music and not us. Get the music out there, and it's like that's going to benefit you. If it's good, if there's a fan base out there, you'll make the money.
I think
Like,
if you can buy it, you should. But I have no problem with people like you're saying, like when you were younger, it's like I haven't got a dime to my name, like I'm gonna do this. And then like there are plenty of people who are in college who don't have any money or out of work and don't have money. Like I don't like fine. Like if you want to download games, you want to download music.
Really?
you
For
want-
games?
Yeah, kind of. I don't like. I think it's easy to take the moral high ground when you're in the situation where you can.
We have dispensable income. We're getting codes
to that
yeah.
level. And I think like, yeah, I don't mind. Like in a way, I kind of hope that we live in a world where the price of that is baked in. Like that's all, like almost like a social tax or something that like you know, if 10 or 5% of the people who would have bought this aren't because they can't afford to, then charge the rest of us a little bit more. I don't know. Like I have no problem with people doing that.
Yeah, it reminds me. I mean, it's a weird. So there's this show called The Rubin Report. That's like this thing on YouTube. It's a pretty interesting show.
It's on Patreon as well, I think.
Oh yeah. I actually heard that on the last episode I was watching. I was watching this episode with this guy that wrote this book called the Moral Case or something for fossil fuels.
Right.
And his basic thing is that, you know, not that I agree with his premise or whatever or anything, you know, a lot of what he was saying, although it was interesting and some of it I agree with, which was the idea of like these guys, these environmentalists, even if the science says what it says, stay on their moral high ground and are like, well, we got to get rid of oil and we got to get rid of all these things. And his whole argument is like, but they don't understand the severe ramifications of that when you don't have to worry about it, but the person you know, you're going to ruin the economies of all these countries that are trying to come up, whatever. It reminds me of the same thing where, to what you're saying, not that I necessarily agree with you, but you're saying a similar thing, which is like, we get games for free or we have lots of disposable income or whatever amongst us, and so we can buy everything. But when we were 14, we couldn't do that, and so it's easy for us, like you were saying, to stand on this moral high ground without thinking of the ramifications of everyone around you or how those things might affect it. That said, like, Dreamcast and PS1 were very easy to pirate games on, like, and a lot of us did it as a kid. I mean, like, I've talked about it in the past, like,
dude, I grew up playing Amiga games, like the console that you never had to buy a game for, and the reason why there wasn't another Amiga, like Commodore disappeared off the face of the earth. Yeah, but yeah, similar thing.
It's one of those situations like where we've all like, you gotta practice what you preach now, and that's the case I was saying. It was like by the time I was like 19 or 20, and I'm like, I have a little bit of money, this doesn't seem right. You know, like that was like my whole thing. I'm like, it doesn't strike me as right, but I don't begrudge necessarily the 10-year-old or the 12-year-old that isn't going to buy the game anyway, you know, or isn't going to buy the music anyway. They have no money, but maybe it gets them interested in it. I was racking my brain trying to figure out like, what is a band that I got into because of that, and I'm like, I actually don't know. Like, I can't think of one that I like really love. Because, yeah, like, well, because I bought my 311 records, I bought my Rage records, I bought my Ben Folds 5 records, my Bare Naked Ladies records. Right. You know, I bought all those Dredge later on and all like. So I
Dredge is a band I never would have come across if it wasn't for Kazaa and Limewire. And like Tool's another one. Yeah, like in a weird way, like
we're very anti videos. That kind of stuff too.
Man, that's crazy because I think that the few years difference we have, like I had some CDs and stuff, but it was like Britney Spears, you know what I mean? It was things that were just like the mainstream pop stuff, like me being in 4th grade or whatever. But like growing up from 6th grade on, in 6th grade, middle school, that's really when you're starting to decide what music you like, not just what music is being given to you, whether it's like the classic rock that your parents listen to or the pop that is literally being delivered to Radio Disney. I think that having Napster and being able to kind of find your stuff, like to this day, every single artist I listen to, I would say that I like really truly believe in came from that.
That's so funny because I can't, like, the only thing I can think of is in that era, 99, 2000, 2001, when I'd go see a band or a band, like I'd see 311 a lot, so a band would open for them, like Zebrahead or even Incubus, before they were big when Science was out. I did download those. You know, Science was a record, like Science is an amazing Incubus record, and yeah, like I discovered it, but then you try to go back and buy it or support those guys. I went and saw Zebrahead live. I went and saw Incubus live. So you try to like, but I wasn't trying to pay it forward in any respect. So it may have painted like my opinion of certain bands or certain things, or whatever. But I never was to the point where I never downloaded a movie or anything like that because I don't think I even had the bandwidth to do those kinds of things. And then I remember long after I was like, and then it started getting shady with like, are you getting viruses and all this, and I was scared of that. And then in the mid 2000s, telecoms and ISPs started going after people, and that was when I was like, "There's no way in hell I'm ever like, I can't believe anyone does this shit," because people are getting sued by the Motion Picture Association and the Music Association, and getting letters
I had a friend
from
of a friend
Comcast
who like went down, and it's funny because what had happened is I had gotten into Smallville late because I was going to college or whatever, and so a friend of mine gave me burned DVDs or whatever that I could put into the computer and watch there, and I liked it so much that I stopped and went and bought the DVDs. But the guy who gave him those turned out to be like one of the biggest pirators in Missouri or whatever, and like went to federal everything and that level. But like I never did a movie. I've never pirated a game. Like, I mean, Pose brought games over back in the day and plugged in the floppies or whatever for us to play, but I never went out of my way to pirate a game. And so like I don't know if like talking about like for the kid who can't do that or whatever, I'm not trying to be like bootstraps America kind of thing or whatever, but it's like that kind of made me learn the system. Now, granted, we talk about, if you can, don't trade it in games, right? Buy new, I was trading stuff in. That's how I kept my cycle going as a kid or a teen, like that I wanted to play other stuff. So I'm playing stuff as fast as I can to trade it in.
Right, but the system allows for that. What I've said before is that I would never cast a personal judgment of someone pirating even, our exclusive podcast or something, if that's what you like. It's like, it is what it is. Just know that you're stealing. You know, like if you're down, like if you're torrenting or using these peer-to-peers back in the day, like you were stealing. Like we can justify it however we want. We all did it, you know. But it doesn't change what the facts on the ground were, which is that you were stealing that music. Like you didn't pay that music. You have no legal right to have that music. But you have to kind of segment that and sever it from the reality of the 12-year-old or all this kind of stuff. And whether you can justify it or find some moral high ground or whatever in there, I don't know. But I don't. It's not really. It seems like a dead issue to me because what really nullified it, like I said, was ultimately Pandora and then especially Spotify. But actually, YouTube was really what nullified it for me in college. Where I'm like, people are just uploading everything to there, like every album,
music and all.
Yeah, and I was just like, fine, that's fine. You know, like I have my iPod.
That's illegal too, though.
Right, exactly.
Or it was illegal then.
No, exactly. No, it still is. I mean, there's still a bunch.
The YouTube unofficial stuff is illegal. If
right.
you're listening to that, it's illegal.
We live in a post-medieval
exactly.
world now. That stuff is at least monetized for those people, even if it's barely.
Right,
Yeah,
exactly. And they have whatever the I can't think of it. The
content,
the music video, like kind of sub thing.
Vivo,
yeah, and all that kind of stuff. So they've tried to protect their artists and stuff like that. But yeah, I've often had that conundrum where I'm like, it's a victimless crime, but is it a victimless crime?
It's the difference between
and
picking up something that fell off the back of a truck and taking something out of a park truck. It's like if you had to go look for it, then that's what was happening.
That's exactly right. And so I like that there's solutions that, you know, Apple's ingenuity for some started with or renewed ingenuity started with iMac for some and with iPod for some, but I think it started with iTunes. And like because iPod came out first, and I when iTunes hit, I'm like, yeah, you guys understand. And then they changed the marketplace forever, and that's still the way the market exists to this day, which I think is remarkable. And once they make it easier, and so it's all about ease, and then extracting money in ways that you don't think about it. I was just looking at my bank statement today, and it's like $8.99 Showtime, and I'm like, I have no idea where the fuck I even signed up for Showtime, but all right. And I'm too lazy to figure out where the hell I go to even cancel it. So I guess you're gonna just extract so I can watch fucking The Circus every week. You know what I mean?
Amazon,
so it's like,
right?
Yeah, probably. But it's you know, and so Spotify's the same way. But I've often said that I think that Spotify is worth more, and I think they're eventually going to have to charge more as well.
And they also need to give their artists a lot more money than they are.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, I would gladly, if there was some sort of premium thing. I don't even know what it would look like because there's really just a premium account that you pay $10 or whatever it is for. If they were like, you have $50 a month and then you get all of this shit, I'd be like, that's fine. Is the money going to go towards like, you know, I'm going to pay literally 5 times more, but I use Spotify so much that, and I think it's such a fantastic service.
I can't believe it's still as cheap as
I'm like blown away by it. Like I can't believe when I started using it, I started using it very early and started paying for it very early when around the time it came out, because I was like, this can't possibly exist forever. Like I'm like, this is I got to get in on this. I'll tell stories about how amazing this was. And it's years later, it's still here. But it seems like a very predatory thing. So they haven't found. It seems like Apple and iTunes with Amazon and Google Play and all that kind of stuff, they have the perfect marketplace to kind of nullify any any kind of negativeness or negativity about things or whatever. Whereas I think Spotify's too easy and too cheap. So that's what gets people in. And then Pandora's fighting the good fight too. I think Pandora's great for discovery. I don't use it anymore, but it was a great discovery tool. That's how I found a lot of bands, you know, in my more recent years.
If you didn't know, this has been the GameOverGreggy Show. Each and every week, 4, sometimes 5 best friends gather on this table. Each bring a random topic discussion for your amusement. If you like that, head over to patreon.com/kindafunny, where you can get every episode early, along with a bunch of exclusives, perks, and goodies, and things like that. And you can support Danny O'Dwyer at patreon.com/Danny O'Dwyer.
Thanks, Greg.
No problem, buddy. If you don't want to wait for our show, or if you do want to wait for our show, you don't have any bucks to toss, you can go to kindafunny.com, where we post it topic by topic, day by day, until the entire thing goes up as one big MP3 and video. Danny, thanks for coming out.
Thanks for having me. Pleasure as always.
Always a pleasure.
It was a real fucking roller coaster.
That's what we do here. Go watch all the Overwatch porn, and until next time, no, it's been our pleasure to serve you.
One shot, one kill.
Come shut.